Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Everything Connects. My name is Osvaldo, known as Os, and I'm so excited to get this episode started. This is something completely new for me. I never done like this podcast in English, but I'm just doing it because a lot of people have been asking for it, and I have a lot of friends here. I reside here in the US, and a lot of people being asking for, hey, how about you do one episode in English? It's like, okay, I don't know. And I feel like, okay, I'll give it a try. I'll figure it out, and I'll start, kind of I don't know if it's gonna be every single episode, but at least I'll, this one for sure. And I'm so excited to get it done. So, um, in this episode, is not going to be fully translated. Pretty much what I'm talking about in this same episode. This is episode number 9. We're talking about discipline. We're talking about goals, how you set up your goals, your personal goals. And this is something that has been working for me for quite some time. People think like I'm really disciplined in what I do. I'm gonna be honest. I think is most of the time is when I found a purpose, when I find a specific goal, right? When I have something in mind that I really want to achieve, it's working pretty well for me. I set those goals up somehow, and then it works pretty well in how I get really disciplined at it, and I'm able to achieve those specific goals. Okay. So, in this specific one, it's kind of really funny the way that this all happened because um, I was just kind of reading some stuff and just found, a lot of social media, and all of a sudden I found like this book, and there's a book who caught my attention right away, and of course it's in Spanish here, the one that I have, but I've been reading and trying to get a little bit of more understanding and all the quotes and everything in English. And is the book is called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and it's a really kind of a spiritual journey book, and I really strongly recommend this book to everybody. It has a lot of quotes, phrases, a lot of different spiritual guidance that you kind of randomly have been listen about it, but it's something that is kind of a help you to kind of a, I don't know, like highlight and put everything in bold and more clear for you when you are actually thinking about those specific phrases. But let's get started to why I'm doing this connection between the book and the way that I set my goals myself. So while I was reading the book, I found like in a specific chapter about discipline, right, and setting up goals. And while I was reading, I found pretty interesting the fact like most of the things that he was saying on the book, it was kind of a really similar in how I was doing it or how I do it. So people thinks like, you've been really disciplined. You got to tell us how you do it. What is exactly your goal in mind every time that you try to achieve something? And I can speak for my personal experience. For example, I think it's like back in October, one of my goals was to kind of run half marathon. And it was kind of really a big goal for me. And I say, you know what? I really want to get this done. Of course, you need someone who can be able to train you, get a program together, figure out things, how you set the specific goals, and how you run every single day. But besides all the training, I had a purpose in mind, which was achieve a half marathon. And that was kind of my whole motivation all the time. So with that motivation, I was kind of okay, I need to get this done. And I did it. and I did a really good time. And I'll explain you in a bit kind of what were some of the things that I did in order to achieve this specific goal. Maybe I'll say almost 5 years ago, also, I did a triathlon in a different category called super sprint. There's like a shortest distance. Right now, getting ready for another Olympic triathlon. This is going to be in August of this year, which I'm really excited about it. And but this is kind of how I set myself a goal. I put something that I really want to achieve, and that's when the discipline comes in, right? Why? Because I really have a purpose in mind, and with that purpose in mind, it was help me to build that discipline, all the time, and build a habit, which is the most important thing about this. But I'm gonna explain a little bit, kind of how my, I'll say, call it like my 5 steps to set up the goal in order to accomplish that, plus how the discipline helped me to get there. And the way that I want to say this is like, for example, number one. Number one is define your goal. It might sound really obvious. You say, like, of course, you want to hit a goal, you want to achieve something, you need to have a goal. But sometimes I gotta be really honest, we don't even have our goal in mind. We don't even have like what exactly is what we really want to accomplish. Example, you want to say like, okay, this year, 2025, you say like, hey, I want to go to the gym. Okay, is that the goal? Go to the gym. Is the goal to go at least 2 or 3 times during the week? Yes or no? Is the goal actually is to go there and get more fit or lose some weight maybe? What is exactly the goal behind just going to the gym, right? And this is kind of what we need to set up a really clear goal, because the more clear your goals are, the easy will be for you to accomplish them, right? So for instance, if you feel like you don't know what exactly you want to accomplish just by going to the gym, maybe you just set the goal of at least build the habit of going, let's say, 3 times a week, something like that. Is that the goal? Okay, great. Go for it, right? But it's really important that you can actually define in a really good way what exactly you really want to achieve, okay? So that's step number one. Step number two, this is kind of a really interesting one, which is you have to create some type of vision in your mind. And this is the way that I call it, is like create a clear vision in your mind of what exactly is what you want. How do you want to look, for example, if it's in terms of the gym, if you want to go to the gym, what is exactly the body you want to have, how in shape you want to look, right? Is create a vivid mental image, your desired outcome, right? So it's visualization. That's pretty much it. It's the power of visualization, right? Is this is a really powerful tool. Once you have clear goals and you create a detailed mental picture of your desired outcome, this visualization technique, to call it that way, will help you to keep you focused on exactly what you're looking for. Focus and motivate, right? Especially when you're facing challenges on the go, right? So imagine yourself living the life you want, feeling the emotions, and experiencing the success you want to have. So it's the more clear you have that image in your mind, the easier will be for you to keep yourself on the right path to get to your goals and build that discipline. Okay? So that's step number two. Okay, now let's talk about step number three. Set timelines and commit to action. Why set up a timeline is so important? For me, it's the more clear you have about the due date, or the clearer you have the date that you want to accomplish something, it kind of creates some type of a pressure also, right? And it's always good to have that pressure, right? Do not stress out, but it's really good to have that kind of a pressure going. And the reason why is because that's what is going to push you to get there. Every single time that you set yourself a goal, you got to have a timeline. It may be for a race, for example, like marathon, triathlon, whatever you race you sign up for. It's so easy just because there is a date. However, the most important thing when you set up a goal, also on this particular step, is set realistic timelines, right? If it's like, for example, if you want to run a half marathon and it is today, but you know that that half marathon is in about a month, I mean, it's kind of, at least if you've been running for ever or running long distance, yes, you can sign up for it and be like, this is going to be my half marathon. But if you're the ones that have been running like, short distances and you sign up for it, I mean, you got to figure out a way that always you set yourself in realistic timelines, right? The same example of running, right? So if there isn't a specific day, you got to build your plan, you got to get there. And in this particular, when you set up a timelines and commit to action, the most important thing is that you kind of break your larger goals into smaller goals, right? Some actionable goals. Some things like, it's easy to accomplish. So that makes you feel like you're getting there, right? Track your progress. The more small goals that you achieve, the more engaged you're going to be with your goal. And the reason why is because it gives you that sense of, emotions, happiness of like, hey, I'm making progress. I'm going to get there, right? So make sure that you always set yourself in realistic goals, but not only that, is break those goals into small goals and make them, kind of a something to have that sense of achievement, right? And with that one, I'm gonna add, like, for example, I'm using a lot of exercise examples, but I also think about buying a home, buying a house. This is a big step, right? It made me feel like, oh, this is not realistic. It's not gonna be a year, 2 years. Why not? But if you set yourself for buying a home in, like, in a year, now what are some of the small goals that you can set yourself up for? Example, you got to figure out what's your savings plans was going to be. If it's going to be something like, for example, let's say, okay, this is kind of a how much I get by month. This is how much I get, like, every single paycheck. This is how much I can spend on this and this and this, and this is gonna be my savings, right? By this time, I'm going to have like X specific amount of money, which is gonna help me to get the down payment for my dream home. So those are just small examples on how you can build up, you know, the down payment for a home. That might be a big deal, but you can set yourself a small goals. Simple small goal, like, for example, like, sometimes we kind of spend a lot of money that we don't have to, like, and just, things like we don't need, especially if we kind of appraise ourselves like, I deserve it. That's different stuff. But when you have those big goals, you can start saying like, hey, you know what, I'm not gonna buy this, and I gotta put these towards my savings. So that's kind of another example of how you can break up your large goal into a small goals. Hope this is clear. um Number four, practice positive affirmations. Why? This is kind of a really good practice for me, because this cultivate a positive mindset through daily affirmations and by focusing on solutions rather than problems. The most important thing when you do this and you kind of have like a lot of positive things going through your mind every single day, and you just keep yourself going into positive, 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 positive. Every time there's something negative comes in, is automatically boom, get out of here, right? Because your mind is being trained for positive thoughts. So it's easier to overcome the negative when they arrive. So think about the positive affirmations, and opposing, opposition to negative thinking, right? So again, the positive affirmations are statements that reinforce your belief in your ability to achieve your goals, right? And I know, like, for example, the opposition thinking involves shifting your perspective when faced an adversity, for example, viewing challenges as an opportunities for growth rather than obstacles. So it's really important for you kind of continue thinking about how you would overcome this, how I do this in a positive way, right? Finding always a positive side of the things that are challenges that might arrive, when you kind of working towards your goal, right? Okay. So this is really important because, again, the more positive thinking you are doing, the easier will be for you to overcome the negative thoughts when they arrive. So that's step number 4: proactive and practice positive affirmations towards your goals all the time. Do it and tell me it really is going to work. Number 5, last but not least, uh, develop supportive habits, right? Through the rule of 21 days. And this is something that you might hear a lot already, right? Like some people are like, oh yeah, the 21-day rules, or if you repeat the same thing 25, 21 days, and yeah, that's the way it is. If the more you repeat that, you build a habit. Yes. And it might sound like a broken record thing, but I'm gonna be really honest, it works. It really works, right? Like sometimes you've done things like forever and it's just kind of an autopilot and you're doing it over and over and over. And the only reason why you have done it so many times, it is only because is the power of repetition. Because you have done it so many times that is so unconscious that you don't even notice why you're doing it. You don't even know why you have done that before. It is just the power of repetition, right? So going back to the number 4, the power of that repetition, of that positive sentiments, of positive affirmations, that's what's going to build the habit. You're going to continue thinking in a positive way. And that's crucial when you set up a goal and want to build the discipline to get and try to achieve something on your life. And this is not only, I know I'm putting some examples around sports, for example, because I can just speaking for myself. But at the end of the day, this is these are steps that you can follow through every single kind of a goal that you really want to achieve, right? It's professional, it's spiritual, is something like in your life, day to day. It's whatever you want to achieve. This might work for you. And I'm really gonna be really honest with you all. This is something that's been working for me somehow. It doesn't mean that it's gonna work for you 100%, but at least it's a guidance for you. And you might take like maybe step 3, maybe 4. Just take whatever you need out of this, right? This is not kind of a, you know, my wife just told me when I said like my 5 steps of, getting things done. She's like this is not life. There's not such a recipe for it. And like that's true, right? So there is no step 1 to 5 to be successful at this or do this or accomplish this. But these are just ways that have been working for me somehow, and I just want to share them with you all. And if something works out for you, great. If just one, great. If it's just 2, great. If you put all of them together and you develop your own at some point, that's even better. Okay. So just keep working towards that, right? The most important thing is how you build your discipline and how you get to a point Did you make this a habit? Okay, develop supported habit through the rule of 21. That's number 5. Successful people in good habits that support their goals, the rule of 21 suggests that it takes 20 days to form a new habit. This helps in reinforcing positive behaviors and eliminating unproductive ones. Okay, consistently practicing these new habits will eventually make them second nature, right? And creating a foundation for a long-term success, right? It is something that it will kind of work all the time for you. And you can put in practice towards anything you want to achieve. Okay. So, with that said, that's pretty much what I have for this episode. As I said, I'm pretty excited about the whole um, podcast and this episode to be in English. Um, Again, English is my second language. I know I do have a lot of accent. They might be worse than I not even pronounce it the right way, maybe. And I apologize for all that. But I also want to thank you all for all the support. Thank you all for you guys to be asking me about getting one episode in English. This really means a lot to me because it kind of when I told you guys like what is this about, you guys like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. I wish I could understand what you're saying. So this is a time for you to kind of understand a little bit what I'm talking about in terms of this episode. Depends on how the audience, how this works. I might be doing like here and there another episodes. So please comment, like, share these episodes. That's something that you really like about it. And I just wanna, say thank you again. And remember, discipline, it's the mother of success. That's how I say it all the time. Plus repetition, great habits. And don't forget, like, as my podcast is in Spanish and it's everything connects. And that's how everything in life is. If I'm here telling you guys this and telling you all this in English, there is a reason why. Because I believe that everything connects. And in the way that sometimes we all have crossed our lives and somehow just might be at work, might be at the gym, might be just, at any other point that we have talked, there's a reason why. And if you're listening to this episode in English, there is some reason why. And I hope you might find the reason at some point. Again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for the great comments about this. This is a big project for me, and I'm so excited about it. And I only can say thank you for the bottom of my heart. Everything connects. Don't forget about that. And thank you so much. And see you in another episode of Everything Connects. Bye.